Alright, let's do this. Part 2 of the best books of 2021. These are the out of 40 books, there's like a few of them really stood out, and I will present another 5 ones and reasons for why you should check them out too. Let's start right away. First up is Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This book took me by surprise. I was again reminded why the classics are called the classics. They're called the classics for a reason. And it's actually a fiction book.
Come on, it said non-fiction books in the title.
I usually only talk about non-fiction book, but it's surprising that sometimes fiction can be more deeply psychological than my psychology books that I have here. And if you're interested in human nature and understanding the darker sides of being human, then this is definitely a book you should check out. I really want to read more classics, and especially the Russians, but they are usually very intimidating, like the size of many of those books, like Love and Peace, Crime and Punishment, books like that, like they're just thick, so it can be quite intimidating. So I was very happily surprised when I found out about this book, and it's because it's quite a thin one. I thought, yeah, let's throw it into the mix, and oh boy, what a journey. This book is about a man. He's called the Underground Man, and he's a spiteful man. He's a total nihilist, and the book is separated into 2 parts. The first part our underground man explains his worldview and how he looks at things. And the second part, we get to jump into a few scenarios in his life where he acts out his personality, and it's a quite disturbing book actually. And it's disturbing because this person is so unlikable. He overthinks everything in social situations. He has a grandiose view of himself, but at the same time he's very insecure. He's petty. One reason I think this is such a powerful book is because even though how unlikable this character is, there's some aspect of his personality that you will recognize in other people, or even worse, in yourself. And it's quite uncomfortable, and it leaves you with a lot to think about. This is one book that really stays with me. And it's definitely a book that you need to read if you want to understand the darker side of human nature. Next up, we have the top 5 regrets of the dying. This is written by Bronnie, Ware, who has worked as a caretaker for the dying. This is a person who spends time with people who are dying and care for them during their last months or weeks in life. And throughout this her work experience, she recognized 5 major regrets that keep coming back to her from these people. And in this book we get the personal stories from the people who are dying and their life stories and their regrets, which is very powerful. But we also get Bronnie's story and how she self-actualized and grow through this experience, which could be a turn-off for some readers, like why would we need to follow her life? But I think it's a good complement to the stories and the regrets that they're talking about here. So it's not only a list of 5 regrets, but it's also a memoir. I think this is a great book to read at the start of the year, maybe, because it really helps you get your priorities straight, because there are things you can do to avoid these regrets, and you better look into that now rather than later. Alright, we continue down the dark path, I guess. It's the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is the abridged version of this book. This book is actually like several volumes, I think. And even though it's abridged, it's 500 pages, right? But this book is something different. Solzhenitsyn calls it an experiment in literary investigation, and in this book he maps out and he talks about all aspects of the Gulag prison system in former Soviet Union. He goes through everything, right, from the initial arrests to the interrogations, the transits, the camps, the prisons, everything. And we also get a closer look at the main players, like the inmates, the camp guards. Everything is covered in this book, and It's one of those books that really take a toll on you. The dark things happened, but I think this is something that we should read about. So this is actually my first real close look at the gulags, and it spurred me to do deeper investigations into the topic of totalitarianism and mass movements. So that's one of the reasons I read books like the True Believer, which I talked about in the last video, and I also revisited this year Man's Search for Meaning, and also Eric Fromm's book Escape from Freedom, among other things. So this is definitely a book I want you to check out. I know it has been disputed and criticized, so that's something for next year for me to look at that criticism and see what there is there. I promise people in the comments will tell me why this book is wrong, but I found it interesting anyway. The Road to Vegan Pier by George Orwell. This is a non-fiction book by George Orwell where he spends he lives as a fly on the wall among the real working class in England, the miners of northern England, and he is there to observe and get to know the people that he and his, because he has some socialist leanings and he really wants to understand the working class and the way they live. And we get to know the miners and the tough life that they live. And I think a picture that will stay with me as I transition from 2021 to 2022 is the picture of the miner going up early in the morning, walking miles to work, to be sent down under earth, walking in tight tunnels in the dark for miles underground, to finally arrive at his designated spot for work each day. It's a strong book. You get perspective from this one, and I recommend it. And it's not only Jordan Peterson's work that quote The Road to Vegan Pier all the time. I also found a quote in this one, Among the Thugs by Bill Buford. This is a book that really took me by surprise. I'm so glad I picked it up. Bill Buford, he is a journalist, he's working in England, and he's an American. And one Saturday, I think, he walks to the subway and a bunch of football hooligans is vandalizing a train cart, and he's shocked by this experience. And when he gets back to work and talks to his colleagues about the incident, he's just met with that's just how things are. And they're actually more surprised that he hasn't been at a soccer game or a football game than that the people vandalizing the cart. And Bill Buford, he doesn't buy it. He can't understand why people would act this way, in this antisocial way. And for the next 8 years, he decides to infiltrate the worst hooligan football firms in England. And he goes all over Europe visiting different cities and goes to matches. And he's a part of the violence and the crowd violence that this book is focused on. He's trying to figure out why this is. Why does young men go out, get super drunk, wreck towns, and just behave like assholes? Super interesting if you want to discover the dark side of human nature. And that's what we want to do, because that's what this channel is about. Every Thursday I post reviews of books. I posted a really thorough review of this book a while back. So don't forget to subscribe. And that wraps up my favorite for this year. I'm working on my planned reading list for next year right now. Maybe I'll do a video where I present that. I don't know if that would be interesting. Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know which were your favorite books of 2021. I would love to hear that because, as I said, my reading list is under construction, so I'm open for all types of recommendations. Don't forget to like, because it really helps me reach more people and it helps everyone see more books, which is a good thing. I will put links in the descriptions to all the full reviews of these books, for all 10 of them, I think. And yeah, so you can just go in if there's something that's particularly interesting. Thank you for being with me this year. Have a good new year. Until next week, Bjorn out.